Hi everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the Impact of AI Explored. I'm James O'Regan and I'm joined by my co-host Gerjon. Gerjon, how are you doing?
Awesome. Having fun and looking forward to this episode.
Cool. And do you want to introduce our guest?
Yes, we have a nice guest we met at the EUC forum in London a few weeks back. Our guest and I both did a session there and we got chatting and thought about let's do a podcast together. So Nicola, perhaps you can introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hi everyone, and it's a pleasure to be on the podcast today. My name is Nicola Graham. I work for my own company, Be Change Limited, and I am a business change manager. So I focus on all of the adoption side of new technology that impacts our colleagues.
Nice. Yes, and that's the main topic for this week. We're going to talk a little bit about how how to adopt AI in organizations and what impact it might have. And we're all a little bit of an expert, we also have some history with AI at the moment. So that should be a fun thing to talk about.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I know that when we spoke about it at the EUC forum, we were talking about the fact that it's a hot topic at the moment, and so let's see what opens up today in the conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but let's first start off with the news, James, as we always do. The first thing I wanted to talk about is a little bit of a snippet, but I saw online that Microsoft released a small large language model, and that the idea is that they can run it on smaller hardware, let's say a phone or perhaps a big Raspberry Pi, and the idea is that they are also looking at running large language models, so generative AI, ChatGPT, like chatbots on smaller devices. And not only is Microsoft is doing that, but I also read that Apple is building smaller AI large language models that they can run on their own hardware. So perhaps there's a shift in the market from running these big large language models online to running them a smaller batch, so with a little bit less context, a little bit less information, but fit for purpose on a device. And that's something that's really cool because it's on your phone, so it works even when it's not online or it's on a device, and it's a bit quicker than sending stuff to the cloud and getting a reaction back. So
I think everyone at this stage has seen the humane AI or the humane pin. And the response time on that was, oh my God, so bad.
Yeah.
It was just like, literally, do this, pause, and then you might get a response.
Sounds like old-fashioned dial-up.
Yeah, exactly.
It really was. That's what some of the reviewers were actually saying. Like, it was so bad. This thing was like this thing is like dead in the water before it's even started. It was just like there's been so many reviews and they're all bad. So it's just like everyone's like saying it's $700 and then it's $24 a month subscription fee, and it doesn't work. And it's essentially you have paid $700 plus $24 a month to be in a beta program. That is just not acceptable in my book.
Good luck getting them to adopt that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Anyway, you were talking about these smaller language models. Sorry, going off on tangent. I had to. It was just like
no, but that's all I wanted to tell about that. Is that there seems to be a trend in the market where they are not only running big models in the cloud, but also looking more at fit for purpose models on Raspberries or whatever, just for the purpose that they're there for. So that's a really cool thing. And the other thing I wanted to talk about that's a little bit scary is I read a New York Times article last week where the use of AI in the elections in India was introduced, and it was said that they can build 20 hyper-personalized deepfake videos of the current president and send them to people through WhatsApp to encourage them to vote for the current president. So that's mental, and because in India the kind of misinformation, as I read in the article, is there's a lot of more misinformation or disinformation, as you might call it, spread around the country. So if you get a personalized WhatsApp from the president saying, "Vote for me, please, because you are I'm here for you and I can help you," that might give a certain thing to the election that's not where it's not, where it will change the outcome perhaps. So I thought it was really scary. I don't know if you have any extra thoughts on that, but I was like, oh crap, if that's going to happen over there, and
well,
it's going to change the outcome.
In the US in November, if that's happening in India, like that's that is not scary at all, and that kind of leads on to one of the news items I had, which was about the VAS1 program that Microsoft have launched, which is lifelike AI figures again. So this just screams like this could be used for deep fakes and all that. Now Microsoft has said it will be used responsibly and have lots of disclaimers, but again, it's just getting like I watched some of the videos. It was really hard to tell that they were AI generated. It was like they were super realistic, so that's a little bit scary, and it ties in with what you were saying. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about, and it will lead into our main topic, is around, so Microsoft, as we know, we all know when we test software, we generally say we should be, eating our own dog food or drinking our own champagne. Well, Microsoft have been very much doing that with Copilot. So they rolled it out to over 200,000 users. They started with their sales team. And the results from that were that they said sales team said they got back 90 minutes per week out of their and they also had an increase in they felt they had an increase in productivity by about 83%. So from 83% of the respondents. So it shows that. So, but also one of the things they mention in that is kind of, and I think Nicola, you're going to get into this a lot more about how you implement change in an organization. So around like, you go for your easy wins, you need to implement it with whole teams, and you need to track the impact. And they were just three of the kind of topics they covered.
Yeah, absolutely. I find it really interesting that they obviously went for the sales teams first. It's very crafty. Of course they're going to have really great rates on that one, but and don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-Microsoft. I just, we all know that they throw the beta versions out at everyone. So it's interesting, and I'd be keen to understand how they continue to deploy Copilot across all of the other areas as well.
This is a really big report. I only took little snippets from it. I'm going to put the whole thing in the show notes, and we'll send it to you as well, so you can have a look at it, and you'll probably get some insights into it, because it breaks it down. It says things like, which you're probably going to talk about, get your internal champions, all that kind of thing. So
yeah, absolutely.
So, Nicola, maybe you want to tell us a little bit about your background and what you've been doing, essentially.
Yeah, of course, no worries. So I mentioned at the start that I'm a business change manager. I've actually worked in IT my entire life, or my entire career anyway. And I've kind of bounced around.
Not your entire life.
Well, you never know. But yeah, my background actually started in sales. So I'm currently still processing how the sales teams found Copilot useful for them. And then I moved into project management, but essentially found my pleasure in the change management elements. So just a first and foremost jargon busting exercise here. I'm talking about business change management, not change control within projects. So I know that's often something that people misconstrue. What I do is I ensure that we have the right strategies in place for the business colleagues to embrace and have the support they need to adopt a new product. So in this example, we're talking about Copilot. I would be the person that understands exactly what the business are going to go through and ensure that they have all of the support they need. So that's my background, but my story is it's quite repetitive now, but I've been parachuted into lots of failing projects as a business change manager, and they failed because the project team haven't recognised the need for my role at the outset of the project. And therefore, they've kind of come to a go live. The people aren't willing to adopt it. And they've said, people don't even know what this product is and why they want to do it. And I'm going to go through some of the reasons that happens, especially focusing on AI in a moment. But
John and I have probably been involved in a few of those projects that have failed, but because we were the ones implemented. The solution was fantastic, but again, there was no business change involved. So
that's the thing. I was always kind of this person in the middle space where I'd be working with a project team, primarily IT project team project experts. And I'd be looking at all of the stuff that you guys are offering the business, and it's been fabulous. But because there's been no communication or engagement between the two, the business colleagues just don't want to know. They're just so frustrated. And you sit there and think, but actually, you guys are really helping each other. And, all you need to do is communicate a bit better. So my focus these days is actually upskilling project teams to take on the change activities that they can do as part of that project. So I kind of consider it quite a helpful role. I want to, bring all the world together and we all hold hands and sing merry songs together. I'll get there one day. Oh, yeah. I've been wearing way too many rose-coloured glasses there, but essentially that's what I wanted to do. So it's fair to say, I wrote a book about this, so I'm very passionate about my topic, and I've spent so many years in IT. And I've seen the changes that we've gone through from a technical stack, but also the colleagues and what they've had to embrace and what they've had to endure as changes that they've had to, kind of accept. And that obviously leads on to the AI elements of that, because we're obviously on a very technically focused impact of AI podcast today. And I'm pretty sure our listeners here are going to be primarily technically or tech savvy people that are going to start to understand this, and they're going to see the real benefits. They're going to understand the benefits of AI. But what do our colleagues actually think? What's your thoughts? Have either of you had a conversation with, let's say a parent, a sibling, a friend, somebody that's a little displaced by this concept of AI? What do you think your loved ones are saying about it at the moment?
If I talked to my parents about it, I don't think I have talked to my parents about it. Talked to friends, but then friends would either be working in IT or creative, and they kind of have embraced it. But obviously, people would have reservations about it. Like, I did a presentation at EUC Forum in November, and my first slide was the T-1000 from Terminator, because that was my first view of AI as a kid in the 1980s.
Yeah.
Watching completely inappropriate films when I was far too young. So,
I think I might have been with you on that one.
Well, I think we all were. Our parents sent us off to the video shop. They didn't, censor us. They just said, "Go get." So you're not annoying me.
With your fake ID to Blockbusters.
Well, I've always been taught, so I never needed it for the video shop, or they didn't actually care. So yeah, but So I am kind of, from my perspective, I'm very much very much an enthusiast when it comes to AI, but I'm also wary at the same times. And there's certain elements which I've talked with Gerjon about. Involves self-driving cars. Not
your favorite topic.
I don't know, though.
Not my favorite topic.
Some people can get off the road.
I the other day about me talking about it, because it's really not. So I think there's elements, like anything, there's good and bad sides to it. But I can see what you're saying about, in an organization, the tech savvy people will embrace these things, but there might be other people who are a bit more wary or don't want to learn, and it's like that communication to the whole organization as opposed to just the kind of specific tech savvy people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So what we do at our company is with all this Copilot storm happening and all this custom stuff that is happening, that we do a workshop with IT, finance, HR, business stakeholders, and just set them in a room and show them the art of the possible, show them what's possible with Copilot, but also what's possible if you build your own AI bots to do whatever you want them to do, an HR bot or a help desk bot or whatever. And then you can see that most people that are a little bit scared about all the new stuff, you can show them what's happening, and then they become more of the champion, the believers, and they go into their own department and talk about, okay, I had this really cool workshop the other day. They showed me stuff. We can automate this. We can automate that. Is there something in your daily job, in your daily task, that you would like to be automated or done differently? And the things that we hear in our from our customers is the simple things like an HR handbook where people are calling HR for what are your days off, what is the policy for when you're getting married, etc. If you build these things into a bus, and first the HR people can use them themselves when they get a call, and they don't have to look up all that information. They can say, okay, what's the problem? Let me check. It's this. This is the solution. And it helps them search their own database of information. Then you have a very small win. But it's like you say, if we just pour it into the organization, like we always did, James, when we were when we were young.
Well, we weren't involved in that stage of things. We just built it and architected it and went, there you go. That's us done. Here's like, you know, you probably would do some screenshots and they'd be passed on to the project manager, and then they pass it on to the implementation team, and but it was a techie who wrote those.
And
and it would be laminated. And it would be laminated and put on the desk of the user. Say, okay,
exactly. There you go.
All you need is here. You can read it.
And look, and you're absolutely right. I think the difference that we're faced with AI is it comes with a misconception of what it is. So Gerjon, your example is a fabulous example of exactly what you should be doing. However, I think that there's also a step before that. And, you know, to your point, James, about the Terminator concept, there are more people than you realize thinking things like that. You know, for starters, they're not actually disassociating general AI to narrow AI. So when you talk about AI, people think about iRobot movies and Terminator and things like that. You know, that's what they're thinking. They don't actually understand this buzzword of AI because it's such a broad terminology for what we're actually trying to offer them today. A majority of us are actually using some sort of AI without realizing, right? You go on to any of the social media platforms now, I'm pretty sure you can press some buttons and they go, oh, let's, you know, give you a predicted text, for example. But
or chatbots on any website are pretty much running on AI these days. So
exactly. And
so if you know, how can I help you? That's probably an AI
that's
chatbot.
an AI. But that's the thing. People
Netflix
don't.
movie checker.
Exactly.
Movie picker.
Exactly. We all, like your parents, for example, will be surrounded by AI without realizing it. But as soon as you hear that buzzword, they think, oh my goodness, social isolation, job replacements, loss of control. You know, what happens if they actually take over the world? You know, there are those concepts that we have now a responsibility, the royal we have a responsibility within organizations to really kind of squish those myths. And to your point, Gerjon, you do that by demonstration. You do that by continued acknowledgement and awareness, creating that awareness of exactly what that is for them and how it can benefit them.
It's not using AI as an example, but one example that comes to mind, in particular with my parents, was when the banks introduced the kind of the second factor authentication, and like it took a while, and you know the banks did not provide training or anything. They just went, we roll this thing out and
get on with
it's tough. But it's, you know, and I had to use it. I was buying concert tickets this morning and I had like a 5-minute deadline, and the bloody pop-up was not coming from the app, and I was like, I'm going to lose these tickets, and I kept cancelling. So, and you know, that's because I know what I'm doing, but I could see why it could be very overwhelming to someone. And I think it's a similar story when it comes to AI. It could be very overwhelming. And as you said, that whole kind of concept of, you know, open AI, you know, open models, whereas we're talking in organizations they won't be using like ChatGPT and just putting up their confidential information. They'll be using something like Copilot, which hooks into SharePoint, is completely enclosed and just uses the data internally, and so that should get reduce some of the fears around it. So yeah, I think, as you said, a whole communication and using the right terminology. Well, not using terminology, just keeping it simple.
Busting the jargon, absolutely. And
absolutely.
The reality is, this isn't a, the great examples, but this, when we're talking about Copilot, for example, this isn't a case of actually mum and dad just need to realise that they need to double authenticate now, or here's the laminated information on how to use your printer. This is what, 20, I really should know this, but how much is the license now per user? Is it $20 or something?
$30 per user per month for the Copilot Microsoft 365.
Okay, so this is a big investment for organisations to go into. Okay, there isn't currently yet enough guidance from Microsoft. Obviously, it's great that they've done this report, but for example, how about code of conduct? We're expecting people to use this. Are there restrictions or limitations that we should be putting in place? Do we know from the tech aspect on how to put those controls in place? And do the users have that support? The chances are they don't at this stage. So if you're going to be investing $30 per user into something like this, which is absolutely going to save them time, it's going to make them more productive, it's going to help people focus on what they need to focus on, you need to make sure that you put that support around that, essentially.
Yeah, I was talking to someone from Microsoft, and he was saying that one of the biggest things when organizations say, in particular for Copilot, if your SharePoint permissions are not correct, someone, they have to be locked down so people can't go, what is the salary of all my colleagues in the department? You need to make sure that is the first step before you even let this thing loose, is because the damage it can do, because it has access to everything. So you just have to, like anything else we implement, you have to have the right permissions for the roles and responsibilities of each department. And if you just have an open SharePoint, you're going to have some seriously awkward questions to answer.
I'm feeling like my brow's sweating at the moment, because I've done a lot of data migrations into SBO, and I think there might be some organisations that need to double check on their current controls because let's face it, I've got some stories. But yes, but you're absolutely right. That's the reality. And I don't want to move this away from actually creating awareness and supporting people on the journey, but I'm kind of being pulled into this conversation. But do you think we're actually ready? Like, do you realistically think that majority of organisations are ready and they've got their ducks in a row as such to embrace something like Copilot?
No, most of the companies are on their way to getting cloud. If you look at there are different scenarios. You can use the Microsoft 365 Copilot, but you need to be cloud enabled. So you need to have your documents ready. You need to have your APIs in order so you can connect to all different applications. So that's a little bit of a journey that most companies are still on. It's the digital transformation bit that still needs to be fulfilled.
Oh, that one. Oh, we're talking about digital transformation again.
Another buzzword.
I got it in. Yeah, buzzword bingo.
We're talking about digital transformation.
If you start saying digital workplace, I'm leaving.
No, but most companies are still en route to finishing up on that one. So, and as long as that's not real, then you can't use it to its fullest.
Yeah, and again, now validate that cost again. So look, it's. I think we all know that. But what can we do, or what tips can I feel like I can provide your listeners around actually, if I really wanted to encourage my colleagues to embrace Copilot, let's use Copilot as the example, what can we do? And I know that this came out in the Open Mic Forum at the EUC as well, and it was one of the reasons that Gerjon and I started speaking and saying, like, actually, we really need to talk about this, because there are ways I feel you can, and I'm going to say the word, manipulate the colleagues to suit getting the budget, because obviously everyone in the room was... I'm making myself sound like a sociopath now, but everyone in the room was talking about, yes, absolutely, obviously we would really like the opportunity to use this, especially, focusing on GitHub. It'd be great from a techie aspect, but we can't justify the cost. Well, what can an organisation do to essentially try and promote what AI is. We spoke about the fact that we could start to create a bigger awareness to our colleagues, especially the ones fearing it, and trying to get rid of the myths around the robots are going to start stopping us from leaving our homes. So I think one of the first things that would be a really good start is to understand what your colleagues actually think about it. Gerjon, you said you got them into a room. You showed them a demo of what exactly could do for them, and you can start hearing the noise that creates.
Yeah.
You know, that's a really great example of what you can do. We're very quick in tech to assume we know what our colleagues want, and we often assume because we've got some business work friends, but they tend to be our tech savvy business work friends. They don't tend to be the more technically challenged colleagues. So I guess start by really understanding what they think AI is, what they think Copilot will benefit them, really. Sorry, Gerjon.
Yeah, no, we lost you a little bit, I think.
Oh, sorry. Modern technology, you'd think internet would be better. You can hear me now, right?
Yeah, now it's good again. Yeah, thanks.
Sorry. So I was just saying that first and foremost, let's find out what these colleagues truly think about AI. Do they understand it? Can they see the benefits, and start to give them that space to express their thoughts? And one of the opportunities by doing that is you start getting people talking about it. You start getting them to start speak to. It enables them to speak to their colleagues and, oh, did you realise that actually I can book all my meetings through Copilot, or I can actually have this report to tell me what I should prioritise, for example. If you can start getting that kind of FOMO creation just by that initial conversation with them, then that will start to create that noise that you need.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good approach, to be fair. And as you said, you want to build up people's confidence that so they can embrace the solutions such as AI. So that makes sense.
Absolutely. And then following on from that, what I would say is make sure that you're determining what the key messages and the benefits are for them. I used this in an example before, actually, but you've got these fear languages coming out. Oh, it's going to take my job. Actually, the benefits are it's not going to take your job, it's going to support you in your job. So it's about making sure that you use really positive voice messaging with them. So things like it helps you focus, it's crucial to your success, it will help you make accurate decisions quickly, it improves things, you can expect a higher accuracy in your work, it will help prioritize. All of these really positive words or language used will change from, well, you know what, it's really great because it's going to help us with some of our compliance, over actually this will really work for me. And I think that's something that I'm always harping on about when it comes to the communication. We need to keep your communication simple, and you need to think about, okay, great, but what's in it for me? Why would I want to start to support this? Why would I want to be on board with this new cool product? Does that resonate with you?
You would have general messaging and then have messaging by department, or
Absolutely. Yeah, so that actually, thanks, James. It's like you've you know what's going on in my mind. That brings me on to the next step. So you've worked out kind of roughly what your colleagues are thinking, the generalized thoughts around AI. You've started to put together key messaging for them. For me, if you really wanted to drive Copilot into your organization, you need to start with that beta group. We're all familiar with that in tech. We're always doing our beta or our pilot versions. And that's essentially just validating it's fit for purpose for them. Microsoft are doing this with their sales team. Okay, they've just gone to their one department and they've gone, right, great sales guys, use this for a month or whatever they've done. Really keen on that report. Use this for a month and let's actually measure before and after. Let's actually put some validation to this. You can do that exact same thing in your organizations. You just need to make sure that you're picking the right user group for that. So what I mean by that is don't focus on IT colleagues. Some of them can be, but we tend to do our pilot groups in IT. It doesn't work for the business. Remember, we're trying to convince the business to spend their money, not IT. And then it's also making sure that we have a variety of different roles. Microsoft went down the sales route, but immediately my go-to response was, it's a bit biased, really, isn't it? How about we get some other user groups into that and really validate this, because it is a business after all that want to embrace this.
Yeah, well, no, that was just to clarify. That was the first group. They then did customer service and then went on and on and on.
Apologies, I missed that part. I just heard sales and stopped.
I didn't actually go into that detail, but as I said, the sales group were the first, then it was customer service, and then it was HR.
Right. Okay, so apologies, Microsoft. I should have got my facts right, or James should have told me the facts. But there you go. That's a great example. But in a beta group, maybe they already did a beta group, and that beta group they would have taken different roles.
I would assume they did. I as I said, this report is just breaking it down by section. So I just got the first bits of it. As I said, it's a really detailed report, and everyone can go read it. As I said, I'm going to put it in the show notes. So
definitely
we'll get it there. But yeah, I think, as you said, you do need that beta group, and you need it kind of diverse across the organization, so you kind of capture all the different elements of your organization, because there'll be different personalities, different people. And
also technically challenged people.
Oh,
Gerjon,
absolutely, yeah.
Gerjon, I'm dying to know, who is that in the background?
On my side, one of my sons is playing on the PlayStation, and I think he's been shut down.
I was going to say, because it just sounds like my house as well. He's had his legs chopped off.
But I went around the house saying, guys, please be quiet. I have a podcast to, and that works for about 3 seconds, and then the adolescent mind has lost all information.
I love it. He's probably playing with my son. It's fine. But sorry, I digressed. But yeah, to Gerjon's point earlier, actually, make sure that some of that group is technically challenged, because you mentioned, Gerjon, in your workshop, you had some people that were resistant to start with, all of a sudden at the end went, oh, this is good. And they end up becoming your best advocates for the change, because I always use the name Jane, because that's always the lady in my presentations. But if Jane can embrace this, who has been at the organisation for 20, 30 years, then wow, I'm ready to listen. They tend to have the biggest positive spin on things.
Yeah, you need to find the biggest pessimist in the room and make him your advocate, and then
Absolutely.
Well, if he's on board, then I'm on board. That's the
Yeah, and then moving to your point, James, about the messaging. So you have your initial messaging, but then you need to start targeting that messaging. So you need to make it resonate with those roles. So the communications you would use, the terminology, the language you would use to a financial person, and the benefits that the financial person is going to receive to a salesperson is going to be vastly different. And it's ensuring that you're speaking the language of the people that you're dealing with at that time.
You're tailoring your messaging, essentially.
Absolutely.
You're marketing correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. And then coming on to marketing, it then is about marketing. So you've done this beta test group, you've sold them onto Copilot. They're all on board. They're willing to embrace it, and they're starting to talk about it. Colleagues are going, hang on a minute, I want a license. That's obviously a really great positive spin. But it's then about making sure you can communicate that out. So who in your organization can you start to drive the updates to? The success stories, the Jane success story of, actually, my biggest advocate now is Jane, and she's talking at the town halls for us. Creating that strong positive messaging and providing results. Again, coming back to Microsoft, they provided that. They've released their results to say, this has definitely worked for us. It can work for you too. So begin to push that out. We'll start to help clarify the true benefits to rolling out something like Copilot, and obviously the price tag that it comes at. So hopefully that will certainly get you into that position of, actually, let's roll this license out. And then obviously, as we know, organizations are different, aren't they? Some will go, fine, we can do an optional license for those who request it, and other people might go, let's push this out to everybody. And that's the discussion that I have at my customers, saying, okay,
there is a group of users that might benefit, but there is also a group of users, for example, for if you're a truck driver and you work at a big company, it does not have the benefits for that $30 a month that you can receive. The return of investment is a bit. But if you're in the staff function and you need to create documents all day or need to do planning or something, then it might help. So it's also about pinpointing it to the correct people and the correct functions and personas you don't have to pay 1,000 times for times $30, but maybe 500 times $30 just to the ROI needs to be there.
Absolutely. And something that I always do in my change management projects is I focus on the change impact, but I do that via cluster groups. So similar to personas, if you will, but you try and ascertain what the current way of working is versus the to be. So, okay, if Copilot can give us X, Y, and Z benefits, who are they going to benefit? And then you can start to cluster those groups. And when you cluster those groups, you can then ascertain who gets your licenses. Because all of a sudden you've got that group, to James's point earlier, about focusing and harnessing into your messaging based on the person you're speaking to. You can do the whole thing via that. So all of a sudden, if you've got a group of people, colleagues that will be using it in a specific way A, a specific way B, and a specific way C, they're one big group. And actually, your messaging can be similar, and also your training can be similar. The way that you're going to train them will help. So what I'd recommend is definitely look at those user groups to start with, what the return on investment would be for those user groups, and how you can support them along the way. And then you're not going to waste those licenses on potential people that don't need them.
No, and the other thing is, and that we already talked about that during the sessions at EOC, but we forgot our users to use Google the correct way. So that's why we in IT are very busy with all the things that are going wrong with computers, and the users don't know what to do. But if we teach them Google, because that's what we in IT do, we see a problem, we Google for the solution. But if we can help them, so not only to adopt the technology, but to train them to use it in the optimum way, so the prompt engineering bit, that also might help them get better results and be even more successful and more efficient in using AI. So that's something that if you train a group, if you have a persona or a focus group that's using it, so everyone in HR, give them the tools to use the correct context when addressing the bot, so they know, hi, I'm Jane, I work in HR, and I need to find this and this and this, or can you create a presentation based on this from an HR perspective? So the bot knows how to look at all the information. And that's and that brings me on to another point. Actually, it's this is really exciting. Okay, this is such a huge leap. Technically speaking, and it's going to continue to go down that route. So we are entering this world of AI, and I'm going to quote you. I promise you guys, I was going to quote your wonderful quote. If you don't embrace, AI will not take your role, but if you don't learn to embrace it, somebody who has embraced it will take your role. Okay, so this is coming to us all. Loved your quote, stolen it too many times now already. I told you I was going to plagiarize it, but that's the truth. This is a really exciting time for us. So if you are listening today to today's podcast and you are thinking, actually, our organization is going through this, embrace it. Sing from the rooftops about this, because this is exciting, and it will be the start of an ongoing journey for your colleagues. And there's so much buzz around it. You can really do some wonderful things, but you can also rely on those people that you've started with. So if you've done that beta test group, or if you've done that workshop and you've got Jane who's really embraced it, they become your change agents. They can sell this for you. They can support others along the journey. So, don't sit here and think that it all falls on your shoulders in the tech team. This is kind of an all-round thing for everyone to learn to embrace. So I'm excited. It's different. It's different than implementing a new VDI solution, because this really it does not. It really changes the core of the way the people will work for the coming years.
Yeah, and to your point about the chatbots, all of a sudden you can automate more and more and more. So once you've put this time and effort into removing that fear from people's minds, busting the myths that they have on AI, and starting to show them just how much it's going to support and help them, not replace them, all of a sudden your world's your oyster, because you can then start to introduce more and more technologies that's going to help your colleagues.
Yeah,
so it's definitely worth putting that effort in now.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, don't start with the big fish, start small. So find one or two processes, find one or two things that it will help them.
Yeah.
And if they see it really works, then they say, "Ooh, what if I can do this? Can I do that?" Okay. I've been to customers where I was sitting next to someone who was using it, and she was saying, "Okay, I can automate the report creating using Copilot, but can I also do this?" I said, "Try.
Give it a go."
And then give her a little bit of help in the correct prompt engineering. So you should ask it from yourself. I'm Jane in HR, and I need to do this. Can you help me? And I need to make it a fancy presentation with a lot of animations. Please fix this, and then it will do it.
Yeah.
And then if you have 3 or 4 of those use cases on one department, everybody's going to say, "Whoo, gotta have it. Why haven't I got it?"
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think one of the other things is, obviously you talked about, obviously prompt engineering is quite a big part of utilizing large language models, and one of the things you can get your champions to do is share those prompts across the organization, or have a central repository with all of them, so they're accessible to everyone, so you get this whole kind of sharing across the organization, because that will just make things so much easier.
Yeah.
Something I do in my change model is I talk about invigorate, which is part of like equipping the colleagues. So it's not about pushing training on people, it's supporting them to coach and learn from each other. And that's a really great example of how you can invigorate. And invigorate will help keep that momentum, because we are becoming better at pushing change through a project. But or a space where the royal we, often fail in is that reinforcement side of it. So to your point of, actually, if you could create spaces for your colleagues to share what they've learned, or what they too have prompted, that gives it that starts this whole space of your colleagues speaking without you even having to get involved at that point. And they're sharing information and sharing ideas, and all of a sudden this becomes that snowball effect that you want it to be, where more and more people get onboarded, more and more people learn the prompts that they need to actually ask it to do, or they create those chatbots that they need to create, and all of a sudden it becomes this self-funding machine almost.
Yeah.
So it's a really valid point, James, about the sharing of the prompts.
That's also a cool tip to give to the users at home. So I think we've covered a lot of tips for them already.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any more tips for Nicola to make it?
How long have we got? I've got lots. So, okay, I'm going to have to do my communication one. You both have heard this before, but it's it's my strongest place I want to change, especially in the tech area. And hands up, I've worked in technology my entire life, so I feel like I have the right to say this. But we in tech departments, we use too many acronyms and too much technical language in our communications to our business. Fact. So one of the top tips I can give you is any kind of communication that you are pushing out to your organization about the up and coming Copilot or other AI tools that they may be using, keep your language simple. 12-year-olds should be able to read it and understand it, although to be fair, they probably can't understand most of the jargon these days.
They understand the tech words.
But the point is, try to reduce the language you use. And if you're unsure, guess what? Go and put it into ChatGPT and ask that to do it for you, because simplifying your language will really help the organization resonate with you. So that's one of my first tips. The other one is create that buzz. So I talk about brand identity a lot, and brand identity gives people the ability to recognize impressions, and impressions it's a marketing tool. We all get impressions on us every single day. You can't avoid it. So it takes you about 7 impressions for something to sit and sink in. So you need to see an advert 7 times before you remember it. The same goes for this. You're busting all of this myth around AI, will create a brand around it. It might be just Copilot, okay? It might be that you're just that one organization, or maybe you can put it into a bigger name. I laughed about digital workplace, but maybe you can customize it to be, I don't know, automating our business, and all of a sudden it becomes its own brand identity, and people start to resonate with, this is a good project, I need to be on board with this project, they're supporting me, and it's going to help me be more efficient, help collaborate more, however you want them to think about the tools that's coming to them. Just put that really consider that identity around the project that you essentially roll out to the business. And then the final one would be really try to think about the difference in your colleagues. I could spend a whole session on talking around the psychology of change within an organisation and the fear that people go through. But essentially, you're dealing with 5 generations of different people in an organisation. So do not assume that one person's generation, role, whatever it might be, is going to perceive something the same way as somebody else. You need to ensure that you provide the support. And providing support means that you need to monitor them. And there's lots of ways you can do that. But essentially, a questionnaire at the start and the end of a project, do you understand it? Do you feel confident with it? Do you want to use it? And measure that at the end. And if you measure that at the end, you can work out who are the people you need to actually focus more on. Because rather than mass training, I don't know, your organisation has 200 people in it, rather than mass training 200 people, it might be that you only actually have to train 10 because they're the people that truly need it. The rest know how to source the information. So we are individual in the way that we need to be supported.
Yeah, exactly. So don't put everybody in an adoption in a room and try to tell them all the things that's happening. Just make it more fit for purpose, fit for the user.
Absolutely. And if you cluster in those groups, then you'll be able to do that anyway, because you're customizing it.
So that's a lot of cool tips.
Well, hopefully that resonates with you and helps.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's been really beneficial, I think, and lots of tips. And we know organizations are going to go through this change over the next couple of years. Not saying they're going to go through it straight away, because it's going to be a very gradual process. Some organizations are already doing it. We're using not Copilot, but we're using other things, and but it's gradual across the organization. But we do see the benefits of it already. And I work in product marketing. I use it every day because it just simplifies my job so much as an assistant. So,
and how do you find, James, people in your organization? How are they embracing it currently? Is it a mixed bag or?
No, it's been pretty positive, to be honest, because we mentioned it on our monthly call, and we were saying that it was with the sales team, and we were saying to them, you guys should be using this for drafting your emails, all that kind of thing. But now what we've done, so that was what we did originally, and then at the last meeting we actually said, now, yes, great that you're using it, but check everything. Because, as we all know, LLMs hallucinate and lie to you, and they sound weird, and it not like humans at all. Like if I see one more in the world of tech, or you can tell when it's completely AI generated, and these things have to be honed so they actually sound like you. And you can, in fairness, you can feed it your own kind of source materials to say, well, make it sound like this, not whatever, and it exaggerates the way it speaks. So I try, so most of the time if I'm writing something, I'll write it, maybe add a bit and then alter what it says to make it sound more like me and all that kind of thing. So we're saying use it, but we're saying at the same time, and we haven't got Copilot yet because in an organization of our size, it's cost prohibitive at the moment. There isn't enough benefit there across the organization. Now, maybe we might get it for like my team, the marketing team, because we can see the benefits, because we're a small team, and it gives you, using AI gives you the ability to act as almost a larger team so that's one area we may look at it as an organization. And so we're saying use it, but be careful, check everything.
And I think that's really great. That's a really great point, because obviously, as you said, that they do hallucinate, but it's ensuring people don't take everything as legitimate for actually what the information they're trying to perceive to be. I often will use OpenAI to put my written stuff in and just say, like, validate it or strip out what you like where it's suitable. I think one of my best cases actually is I use it for mediation sometimes with my ex-husband. You think I'm joking? Honestly, it's my go-to tip if you need to mediate with somebody.
Interesting use case.
It is. Yeah. I promise you it works, because obviously you're very emotive when you write stuff at times, and then if you put it into a robot,
I can imagine.
It creates it
really
robotic.
Emotive like that. It's like it takes all the emotion out of it and just puts it in a neutral context, because we are emotional creatures. So I've used it as well for a couple of emails where it's like beep 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 type email, and I'm like, need to tone that down just a bit, like, and you can just tell by reading it that I'm angry. So like I fed it into an AI and went neutral. But that's the thing. You can choose, using these models, you can choose the way it speaks and the tone it uses, and that's very important when you're utilizing it. Is tone. So like when it, because as we said, like, if you read an email, you can go, what? Why are they saying that? And then you talk to them and go, oh no. Oh, right. So I just misinterpreted the tone. So you have to be careful, especially with these things in the tone of it.
Exactly. I think when I first started using OpenAI, one of my tech mates gave me a really great tip. He said, always start with telling the AI what who they need to, what role they need to play.
Yeah.
And the moment I learned that, because when I first started, I was like, this is rubbish. It's not talking to me like I need it to talk to me. But the moment I said, hey, you are a travel advisor and you are going to give me the best holiday based on Canada, blah, blah, then told it what to do, it went off and came back pretty good, actually. I had a great holiday. So, it's...
I think it's if you take it back to, like, when we first got Google, like when we were just putting stuff in, like, you're getting rubbish responses because you're putting rubbish in. It's the same with an AI. If your prompt is rubbish, you're going to get a rubbish outcome. So and you have to keep talking to, and that's the thing. I think you don't just put in a single prompt. You can have a conversation and hone what you're doing. So it is like an assistant where you say, okay, actually that paragraph, let's cut that, add that, all these kind of things. And it's just a continuous dialogue. And then it learns as it talks to you. So that's the benefit of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's obviously it has space to go yet, and we know that, but it's definitely proven its weight in gold already. And it's just us understanding what it's for. I mean, I actually sadly spent probably about an hour talking to OpenAI once, because I was trying to get it to prove that it wasn't a robot that just didn't feel or think anything. Honestly, you should have seen the conversation. I should have put it up online. I was like, no, tell me how you're feeling. I cannot tell you how I'm feeling because I am a robot, blah, 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 blah. And I just pushed and pushed and pushed, and I couldn't get that thing to break. I was very disappointed. But the reality is a robot, it thinks like a robot, and it's based on data that it has been fed. And if it's not there, then it's...
like one of the things I found is when you use ChatGPT to create an image that has text on it, it's rubbish. It's rubbish, so bad. Like I will tell it and spell it, put this phrase on this image, and I don't know, it looks like it's in Russian Cyrillic half the time. I'm like, what are you... it does not interpret it properly. And I've
Yeah.
I've been trying to use something for like a marketing site or something, and like I've had to do it like 7 or 8 times.
Yeah.
And like say it spells liquidware, but it has a double I, or the U is a double I, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
This is not. And I just go.
Yeah.
After sometimes I just go, right, I'll just take it into Photoshop and edit it,
Yeah.
because I can't be bothered.
I think-
So there's good things with it. It's not great for other things. So choose your use case wisely, I suppose, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. I think you guys followed me directly after when I presented the EUC forum, and I start off by saying, just to let you know, I've used ChatGPT for the images here, and it does hallucinate, and I think it put 2,224 rather than 2024. And then sure enough, Gerjon's is like hallucinations, all the images.
I saw 6 fingers on one of the images. So
I find it very comical.
But
exactly. But then other images I've seen, like it has to do with the way you prompt it as well. Like I've seen things and they look so realistic because they're prompted by a photographer who tells them what angle, what exposure, aperture. They use the full technical language, and some of the images are stunning.
Yeah.
So again, it's to do with how you prompt this thing.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely the takeaway from this, isn't it? If you prompt it correctly, it will give you what you need.
Exactly. Yeah.
So let's train our colleagues up how to prompt it properly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Forget everything else. Just do that bit.
We'll put it in the show notes. OpenAI I think OpenAI and Microsoft both have really good prompt guides, and we'll pop them in the show notes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Nicola, it has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
No, the pleasure's been mine.
I think we've both learned stuff, and how to implement things. Obviously, that would be more Gerjon's thing these days. I don't really implement things. I just promote them and create content. So
make nice videos.
Makes lots of videos. Yeah, host podcasts, all that kind of thing. But I find it really interesting, and it's definitely a topic that I think people will find interesting. Given by when we just had a small section of our industry when you spoke at EUC Forum, and the amount of questions and interactions during it was amazing. So I think this people will really like it. So thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you for having me today, guys. It's been a really fun topic to talk about, and I've learned some stuff too.
Let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll get you onto my podcast next.
Nice. We'll also put your podcast in the show notes, so people can listen to you.
Yeah, of course we will.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because I do talk about lots of ways that project teams can support the colleagues. So do have a listen to my podcast, or jump on my YouTube if you fancy it. There's always tips and tricks. So I'm definitely going to do one all about AI, because that's my go-to focus now, because that's where everyone's focus is going to be.
Exactly. That's where everyone's focus is. Yeah. All right.
Thanks so much,
everyone.
guys.
Thanks for watching, listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.